Okay, so now we're actually going to put the alligator clips on one side. I've already cut 30 feet of wire. In my case, that's how much I wanted to be able to clear the batteries. You can pretty much measure from where you would position these to where you would want them to sit at, and that could tell you. But what we have to do here is take the clip, the alligator clip, pull off. One side has a larger ring inside of it for the wire to fit under. Pull off the piece of plastic sheeting, put it over the piece, put it in, and you can actually take and put the wire underneath that little metal clip that's inside of it. Get it in there nice and tight so you can see where that clip is. Now we're going to do the red side. We're going to push this one underneath. In my case, we'll kind of spin it here. Once we get that there, we're going to take and crimp over to one side to hold it, and we're going to take and we're going to turn this other side here in. So now you have the wire up inside of it. Now, this is where we take the soldering gun. And we come in here, and we heat everything, we heat the gun up. We take some solder, and where this connection is, we actually get plenty of solder in there. Now this here was heating up. See, we're just feeding the solder into it. Get plenty of it in there. And you know, some people might do this with a torch, a pencil torch, different type of soldering gun, you know, it just depends. So, and there's numerous ways to connect these. I mean, some people may not solder them even, but in my case, you know, being around a lot of salt water here, we want to make sure we got a good connection that's not going to give us any problems. Okay, so now we're back and we're getting ready to cut the long arms of the handles of this, which are going to be the PVC pipes there again. And in our case, we're going to cut them. We're going to cut them at 4 foot because of the way they're going to mount on our boat. For most bay boats, you know, approximately 4 foot's good. You can always adjust up and down because we're actually going to put an adjustment sleeve on them. So we're going to cut both of these pipes here. We'll cut 4 foot here. Then we're going to cut 4 foot down here. Since we're going to have a cap on the end of ours, we're actually going to go ahead and drill a hole in 2 of the caps. And this way, with the hole drilled in it, we got one cap there. We've got a cap there. And later we'll come back to the reason we've done this was basically to seal off the inside of that pole. But we're going to send that on down. And now we're going to send the wire through this pipe. Alright, so now it's out the other end. And remember, we've got 30 foot of wire, so we've got plenty of wire to just leave laying around so we can work with it. Now, in our case, some people use butt connectors for these, some people use heat shrink. heat shrink butt connectors, wire nuts, electrical tape. But in our case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to solder these wires together instead of connect them any other way, because usually solder holds the best. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these wires here and just attack them and get them started. And we're just going to basically feed solder into them, and this will get them to hold until we could come back and really put a lot of solder on them and get them where we want them at. So that's how we do it. Now both of these have a solid tight solder connection, and we'll come back through and we will tape those off shortly. Perfect. Couldn't ask for a better joint than that. So now, in our case, all we're going to do here is make sure this side here is warm. We're going to use electrical tape, and we're actually just going to tape these guys here together. Probably wouldn't hurt to use heat shrink tubing. I made a little more professional job, but we can make do right here with what we got. Now that we've got that done, we're going to go down the line here. Slide these guys up inside the pipe. Pull them in through. And glue this joint here together. Make sure it's glued all the way around if you want this thing to be watertight. There, and now we have the full pipe, and we'll get a full view of that here shortly. Okay, for this portion here, we're going to move the wire over, and we have a Rockwell sonic tool here that we're going to use to cut out for this switch. As you can see the smallness of the blade here, so you need to figure out what you're best comfortable with when it comes to this. Other thing is, make sure that the switch is on the back side of the pipe if the lights are going to be facing outward, so that when you're in the boat you don't got to reach around on the outside of the boat to get to it. So, you know, I'd place these here somewhere right in here, because these lights a lot of times are going to be out on an angle off the front. So, you know, with the angle of my boat, for instance, you know, if the switch is somewhere right back here, then we're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out for where I want to cut this and the thickness. Okay. Make sure that wire's out of the way in there. I mean, this is something we could have done earlier on, but I felt comfortable in doing it this way. That worked out pretty good. They're nixing the wire, luckily, and of course when I get ready to, I'll be able to push that switch all the way in. First cut, first time. Usually I don't get that lucky. Alright, this stage here we're actually going to put the switch in, and we are using the hot leg off of this wire, which in our case is going to be this copper side. This is 14 gauge wire we're using, which really is plenty for 3 little LEDs. So we're going to do that like so. And I'm not going to hook up the ground on the switch, simply because I'm not worried about having the switch light up. It's just one more light in the boat that I don't need to deal with at night. We're going to bring them down here now that they've been cut. We're going to pull them out of this hole. Okay. These are our connectors. Of course, this wire size here pretty much maxes them out. We're going to take and crimp these guys. On our switch, it happens to be the two silver legs here are for our hot line, switching line. So we're going to plug that one in, and now we're going to plug that one in. We're going to fish all the wire back through. Alright, switch is in nice and snug. And of course we're going to come back and put some 5200 on that here shortly. But for right now, this is where we're at. We're going to make sure this top's glued on good. And towel. And now, this here's the top. This here's the bottom. And now we have our poles. We'll take these guys and wind up the wire. So now we're going to caulk in everything. Get all these lights caulked in with this 5200. Have a good towel around to wipe up everything. Alright, that is that. Caulked in. Of course now, the top